Hi, I'm Amy Shannon from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast, where stories speak, voices matter, and words come alive. If you are following this on Spotify, please uh, follow the podcast. Um, Now, the interviewees uh, have the option of having an audio only podcast session or a video podcast session. This is a video podcast session, and I hope that you enjoy it. It will also be shown on YouTube. So if you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Thank you. Good evening, listeners. I'm Amy Shannon, and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Conversations, revelations, and inspirations behind the book. Tonight's segment is Voices Uncensored, Voices Unsilenced, and Voices Amplified. Unmuted via erased so every voice can be heard. You never know where the conversation will lead us, so let's find out. I don't have a guest with me tonight, so this is going to be what I'm going to call my story. Um, if you've been listening to any of the podcasts, there are a lot of times when I talk about either my situation, my incident with domestic violence, or I talk about my family and my father and um, my mom, who inspired me to always be kind. And she also proved to me that you can still write and tell stories, even if it's just for your family. Um, so I wanted to take this opportunity. By the time this airs, I will have already had right arm surgery and will be recovering. But I just kind of wanted to do a segment about, Voices Uncensored is not just about like banned books, which it is about as well. Authors that are controversial or get censored. Um, there is a lot of that happening. One of my dear friends, Abdiel Leroy, he is gets censored all the time. And my point of view is that you don't have to agree with everything that someone says. You um, should listen behind rhetoric or false information, um, not believing everything that you hear, um, but also making educated choices and even making educated opinions. Everybody has an opinion. Sometimes the opinion is based off of something that's not true or you don't know the whole story. Um, and that is one of the reasons why I have this segment. It was inspired by my friend Abdiel Leroy, and he talks a lot about um, his point of view, his theories on his religion, and also on politics. And he also is one of those prolific poets. He writes magnificent epic poetry. So my this segment coming every month um, is inspired by him, and it's a platform where anyone can come on and they could talk about whatever they want to, as long as within. I run a clean podcast, so I don't really want people to use vulgar language. I think there is a lot of other words that you can do than use that particular language. Not saying I am not a prude. Definitely, I have said my sh share of swear words. Um, I don't swear as much as I used to. Um, and not that um, I don't condone swearing or you talk like you want to, you say the words that you want to say, and I think that's perfectly fine. And I don't shudder if somebody uses the F-bomb or there are hateful words that are, to me, more vulgar than just your ordinary swear words. Um, I have been known to swear, and um, I actually cut back on that a long time ago. I knew this woman, and she used the F word in every sentence that she spoke. Well, by the way, this is an Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast mug, so you can get it on my Etsy store. I'm just going to give myself that selfish plug, and it's etsy.com shop, and then one word, Amy Shannon Enterprise. And you can get uh, more, this is more selfish plugs. You can get merch with my logos. You can get my Be Kind campaign merchandise. And also, I create resin decorations and plaques and all that kind of stuff. It's one of my hobbies. So I have things on there, and there will be more to come probably after my surgery. So that's a selfish plug. Now, to go back to what I was talking about, I knew this woman, excuse me, and every, it was like she couldn't not say that word. So she would, as an example, and I give this to, it's the same sample I give to people. She could say, I'm going to the store. So instead of saying, I'm just going to the store, she would say, I'm effing going to the effing store. And I'm thinking that is like unnecessary. Um, and it made me think about how I was talking. And I mean, my kids were worse than I did. And most of it, they learned from school, you know. So going back to what I was saying about being open and honest, and you can do that without uh, using vulgar language. And to me, it is more disparaging language when you are uh, using phrases against, say, people that are of a different gender um, or are have a different lifestyle than you're used to, a different race, a different culture, because somebody may look a certain way or act a certain way. And that is, I can't tolerate that. How tolerate hate for that. Um, and I must say that when um, my one of my sons has a husband. One of my sons has a wife. One of my sons is single. Um, and he has special needs. He's a high functioning autistic, and he's one of the smartest people I've ever known. Um, and he is just one of those people that he speaks his mind, and he tells you what he thinks is the right thing. It's always his opinion. And when it is his opinion, it is based off of stuff that he learned. So there's that. And and I'm very proud of the three of my sons who um, are themselves. And I think they grew up to be amazing men, considering they could have used their childhood against them. Uh, Sometimes I talk about this and sometimes I don't, and I don't really get into details. Um, but I think that, when I share stories, when I am doing interviews or conversations, um, it's about, um, what I had gone through a little bit. my physical limitations, um, and also what actually happened, not just what was done to me by my ex-husband, but was done to me by the law. This was over 20 years ago, and I um, suffer from PTSD, and I also have a neurological disorder that um, goes along with giving me tremors. Um, I have pain in places that you shouldn't really have pain. Um, and I push through things. People tell you to get over stuff. And when you've had a trauma or you've had many traumas, and there are always those people that think that they've never had a trauma. So that means they've lived a perfect life and they've known people who have never died, um, or they've never had a loss. Um, Trauma can be in a lot of things. Military people, who I highly respect, first responders, also who I am honored that serve our community. And when we are running away from the danger, they are running towards it and going in, risking their lives to save people. Military personnel, they are doing their duty to serve our country. And that is, um, they have my highest honor. Um, and it also goes along with teachers. So I've had teachers and military veterans, law enforcement, true crime writers, whether they were journalists, former law enforcement, former, um, investigators or coroners or whatever, and that write true crime. And everybody has seen something you can't unsee. People have had things happen to them that you can't undo. You can't undo something that you just did. It's not like when you're typing and you can undo it and, oh, okay, I'm good. Um, and when you think about your life and the journey that you have, you're moving forward with, you think of your childhood, teenage years, and you're like, cringe, or and things that have happened to you, how you have lived your life, um, things that affect you, and they don't have to define you, but they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Basically, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, strong enough to push through something, not get over it. Because that if you're getting over something, you're just kind of like bypassing that area and you're blocking that trauma. Um, and sometimes you can't forget. I don't remember what I did yesterday, the day before, but I remember what happened to me 20 years ago. I remember things from when I was 3 years old. I remember growing up in a household where my father was angry all the time. Um, and my mom was the kindest, most generous person I've ever met. And she didn't believe in herself. And that is, no matter how much we try to, I tried to tell mom that, mom, because she was beautiful outside and inside, and she was smarter than she was thought herself to be. She didn't think she was smart enough to help us with our homework, but she was. She took that time to do it, and she knew what she was doing. She just didn't believe in herself. And that to me is always sad because my mom was that person that was your best friend. She taught young mothers who had no help. She taught them how to be a mom. She taught them how to take care of their babies. She took care of people's children. And she had five of her own. Um, and she just taught, she just took care of other people's children. And she only charged them $7 a day. And even back in the 80s and early 90s, $7 a day was cheap. I mean, so you're thinking, you know, because she was watching kids who's most of the time they were single mothers. Sometimes she would have children that they had a mother and father who both had to work to make ends meet. Um, but she was that person, and she helped me when my oldest son was younger, and I was going back to school, and I was in my first bad marriage. Um, she took care of my son, and then when she couldn't. But that was my mom. She loved her grandchild. Um, my mom died in 1997, and she was 44 years old. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss her. I miss her every single day. And I know she would be so proud of my children, my boys. And I hope that she would be strong. And I know that she would be. And I just think that her story should not have ended. It should continue. And even though she's gone, but what I learned from her, and I've said this before, was to be kind and not judge people, um, and treat people the way you want to be treated. Even if they treat you horribly, you treat them as you want to be treated. Um, and I learned that based on her behavior. And I taught that to my sons, and they learned that based on my behavior. I didn't have to say, tell that person thank you. They just did it. They loved opening doors at the store for people. They used to volunteer at a local church um, in the mornings on Sunday so they could hold the doors open for people that were going to church. And that's what they did. And they helped the pastor put out Bibles. We're not really a religious family. It's not that we don't have our own beliefs. We do. Um, I don't normally talk about religion and politics, but this was not about a specific religion. It was about my boys wanting to help people. And they made an impression. So if they saw somebody that went to that congregation, they always thanked them and said hello to them. And I was so glad that they grew up to be wonderful men and fall in love and just be happy with who they are. And they are. And that's what's so important. And having a good relationship with my boys is something that's very important to me. I do have an oldest son, who was from my first marriage, and he lived with his father primarily. growing up, and I would see him on the weekends. And when he was little, he loved his mom. And as he got older, he became more and more like his father. And he would ask me for favors, usually was giving him rides and stuff like that. And that was, I got to a point where I would say yes just because I wanted to spend some time with him. And that was a way to do it. But um, when I couldn't give him a ride anymore, when I stopped driving in 2019, I realized that the tremors in my legs affected my driving. I accidentally twitched and my foot stepped on the gas. Uh, and I was lucky that there was no car in front of me or I would have hit somebody. And I had my son Lewis in the car. And I drove home and I told my son Robert, I said, you can have my car. I said, well, we bought it together. I said, you have the car. I'm not driving anymore. And that was it. Um, I know how to drive. I can drive. I shouldn't drive, so I don't drive. And from that point, I couldn't give him rides anymore. So I didn't hear from him very often. And then it just got less and less, forgetting not even a happy Mother's Day on Facebook or happy birthday when before he would, even if it was just a plate of cookies that he made or bought at the store. So in some ways, I realized that he could not handle his mother being disabled. And I knew it at a point that um, he had asked me if he could come over and visit. And I asked my son Robert to be there as well. And he and his fiance came and we kind of talked and caught up a little bit. Um, then I happened to have one of my awake seizures. I don't get them all the time, but at least once or twice a month. And when you're awake, you can see, you can't move very much because your body's doing everything that like a normal seizure would be, except you're not awake. Or a regular seizure, you have no idea what's going on. But when you have an awake seizure, I know what's going on. And I could see out of the corner of my eye that their heads just turned away to not look at me, where my son Robert got up and he came over to the chair and he just put his hands on me that way to help calm my body and also so I wouldn't fall out of the chair. That's one of the things I have to live with. And that's okay, because I'm still alive. I have a lot of pain. And just when I think I've had my limit, something else happens. Um, but I realized that it wasn't just my son. Um, I had to use, first, I used a cane, and then my hands hurt and tremored too much. I had to use a walker. And then when I fell on top of my walker, I realized I needed a chair. So I have a few different chairs. I can walk around my apartment most times. Sometimes I can go out in the hall and to the trash room and put the trash in. I try to do what I can possibly do. And sometimes I do things that I am not supposed to do, but that you're not thinking. So, um, this is my life. And I push through every single day. And there are some days I just don't feel well. but I always get myself out of bed. I get dressed, I make my bed. That is what I do to get up. And I look at what my day is going to look at, and I see what can I do to help others. And for over 11 years, I've been helping authors, not just by reading and reviewing their books, but talking about them and giving them a place where they can send and they'll know they'll get an honest review of their work. Um, I'll promote for them. And sometimes I just, hey, if you want, I'll just give you a promotion for free. Um, and who wouldn't say no to free? Well, some things not everything free is good. But anyways, um, so that is that's why I do what I do. I read, I write reviews. I've even I've pivoted in my own projects to uh, historical nonfiction, local mainly, family history, um, and also I've just started writing children's books. I thoroughly believe that adults should read children's books, and I think that is something that all of them adults should do is read children's books, whether you are reading to your child or you are reading them for yourself. I love reading children's books. So when I get an author who is uh, a children's book author, I'm just excited to read that. Um, so that is that's kind of part of who I am. Um, I talk about my dad. I'm He's had end stage dementia for quite a while. And just when they think that, okay, this is towards the end, then he continues on. Last year, they told me he wouldn't live 6 months and he wouldn't make it to his 76th birthday. He celebrated that in February. I'm sure he had no idea it was his birthday. He doesn't really know much. I believe he still has like physical instincts. Um, and somewhere in his heart, he holds us dear. And no matter what memory that is, uh, no matter how much you don't remember, I believe that you carry the people that you love in your heart. Uh, so every day I wait for that phone call. And then usually it's telling me that he has fallen down or laid on the floor. And that's pretty much how I am what I am. My dad and we had a tumultuous relationship for me growing up. He couldn't understand himself, what was wrong with him. I couldn't understand, and I was just a teenager who wanted to impress my father so much, and I wanted to be smart. I didn't need to be pretty or uh, I just wanted to be the smart one. And I keep trying. I mean, I'm a lifelong learner. So anytime I can learn something or I relearn something because I forgot, I love to do it. So as I wrap up here, I want to thank you all for listening. And I have been getting a lot of emails telling people that they will be thinking about me during my surgery. And I really appreciate that. I must say that besides my 3 sons and their spouses, and my furry grandbabies, and my pets, myself, my turtle Stanley, bearded dragon Han. I have 3 large goldfish, Larry, Terry, and Jerry. And I have grand fur babies, 3 guinea pigs, and a cockapoo named Hyper, who I love very much. And my kitties, uh, Flash and Tange. And that is my family. Um, Siblings just kind of stepped away, especially because they can't, for whatever reason, deal with a disabled older sister. Um, and that's what happens sometimes. Um, but I have reconnected with other family members, and I am so glad for that. And they are sharing with me. And they're all on my dad's side. And I have this great cousin. I call him Cousin Bill because he's my dad's cousin, so my second cousin. And he's a local historian. And when he reads my work and he likes it, that is so impressive. It's so it's an honor for him to like it. I mean, he wrote the foreword in my book that's published on April 6th, 2026. My second nonfiction historical book based off of women and their families from the 1800s that lived in the area. Most of them, you wouldn't know their names, and others you may. But then I also wrote a companion cookbook, and it's not like, okay, it's all up these recipes. It's about how families, depending on who they were, farmers or merchants or tradesmen or business people or the wealthy, would make the same kind of dishes, but the ingredients were different because of what they had available or what they could afford. And I thought that would be something very interesting. So I'm going to sign off now. And I just want everyone to know thank you for all your thoughts and prayers. And also remind you, and I don't know if it's an honor or not, but someone has been impersonating me, sending emails to authors that I've never even had contact with. But I must say, thank you, scammers, for that because they're sending me emails asking me, is this you? And I say no. And they're like, would you read my book? And I'm like, yeah, why not? You gotta, somebody said I would help promote you, so I might as well do it. Um, I have an alert on my website. At this point, the only email address I know that they are using is Amy Shannon Bloggers at gmail.com. That is not my email address. Those who know me know what my email address is. And if for some reason my email address ever changed, I would let people know that. So that's just another thing. Yes, someone is impersonating me. Why? I don't know. So thank you, audience, for watching and for listening. And if you or anyone you know want to be a guest on the show, you can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and you could schedule your pre-recording. And you can also comment on this show or any other show, and I do read them. And join me for this segment next month and each Sunday for conversation, information, and more. Please follow this podcast on Spotify. And if you want to check out my work, just Google me. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video podcast. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is a takeoff of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews website, and which does reviews and also author promotions. You can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com for more information. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, follow, and keep listening. Thank you.